I think I might have changed my mind. Nighty night.
Hostile explosive seeker mine detected.
I have two other builds, one using the exotic Centurion Scabbard holster and the other one using the buffed Mosquito exotic pistol, but I had to put both of them on hold for this one right here. Remember that video wherein I teased the ACR SS? Well, it's finally here, but the meta has shifted. We are in the era of rate of fire and it's even more devastating than before. So not only are the rifles fast firing, but the Pestilence got a buff. The Iron Lung is more powerful than before, and the Ouroboros is just ridiculous. Players will melt you in a second. So I've had to try and find a way to navigate through all this and come out on the other side with a build formidable enough to thrive and survive. Specter. A build that turns you into an unstoppable unseen force on the battlefield with 1.5 million armor, 80% hazard protection or more, and complete pulse immunity. The purpose of this build is to zone enemies with surgical precision from afar, using the ACR SS's incredible rate of fire to dominate. At close range, you can switch to an exotic of your choice for devastating impact. This build makes you free from the distractions of status effects. And undetectable to pulse, it keeps you focused and lethal, making it perfect for the Dark Zone or any high-stakes PvP encounter. And with the PvE version included, I've made a hybrid with 5 skill tiers and 5 weapon cores, able to utilize whatever skill you like at 90% effectiveness. I know that was a mouthful, but there's a lot we need to go over in this build, so let me explain to you why I made it the way I did. Let's not waste any more time and get straight into the details. This build is a breath of fresh air. Not having to worry about skills or status effects, that's already half the battle won. It cuts out an entire layer of threat, letting you focus purely on the fight. I can't even count the number of times I would have gone down from bleeding or being locked in place by that annoying foam launcher. But with this setup, none of that even phases me. It gives me a clear mind and allows me to focus on the action without the distractions. You see how I did that? Now, there's a small trade-off here. All these resistances mean I'm sacrificing a bit of damage output, right? Specifically, I can't stack crits as high as I'd like. But let me tell you, even with that sacrifice, this build still holds its ground as a force to be reckoned with. I'll show you the stats at the end so you can see exactly what I'm working with. But trust me, the resilience and power this setup brings more than makes up for the slight drop in crit. So here's the build. I'm using sharpshooter specialization. And wow, I just realized this. Look at this. I didn't even have LMG damage equipped, so the build was hitting like that without it. That makes me even more excited. Anyways, sharpshooter is great because it has breathe free, 15% increased weapon stability, reduced recoil, and faster acquisition of targets. Also more headshot damage, and it has that exclusive tactician spotter drone, that annoying eye in the sky that always sees you in conflict. But get this, it can't even see me. That's because of the particular brand set I'm using. Yahl gear is one of my favorite brands of all time. 10% hazard protection, 10% weapon damage, and 40% pulse resistance. You need the full 3-piece in order to get all of this. And wearing this, by default, you'll gain 90% pulse resistance because every specialization has 50% baked into it. Then you'll just need one pulse resistance mod to become fully immune. The chest piece talent is Unbreakable. Great for survival, and the stat composition you want on every piece is hazard protection and crit damage or chance, your choice. I went mainly with crit damage, and for the chest piece talent, you don't have to use Unbreakable. Glass Cannon is a great option as well. It's actually a genius idea, being that you're immune to pulse. They'll never see you coming when you flank to ambush players and get that insane burst of damage. You can also use Obliterate, where you eventually get up to 20% weapon damage. So you have a lot of damage choices in this area. I just decided to go with Unbreakable. You need 2 pieces of Yahl. This will give you 3 because with the Ninja Bike backpack, I'm able to get an extra piece slotted in based on the exotic talent. Furthermore, Ninja Bike gives me the 2nd piece of 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐵𝐵𝐵𝐵. This brand got buffed. And now for the 2-piece, I get a whopping 20% hazard protection. With 10% rolled on the attribute, that's 30% Hazpro on one piece alone. The crit chance on the first piece also helps a ton. Now, that's the survival aspect of this build, and this side is for the damage. I'm rocking with the Fox's Prayer knee pads, of course, for its rifle damage, accuracy, and targets out of cover damage, which is multiplicative. With the named Eagle's Grasp gloves, I get even more rifle damage at 20%. And the first piece gives me 15% magazine size. Not to mention the named attribute giving me 15% weapon handling. These gloves are awesome for a build like this, because not only is weapon handling great for rifles, but LMGs too. Look at the weapon setup I have: ACR SS and Pestilence. Now, I did say that you can use your choice of exotic weaponry. The Iron Lung, Eagle Bearer, or Boros is up to you. But this is what I decided to go with. Specifically because the Pestilence got an insane rate of fire buff, and it's just amazing. With the Plague of the Outcast talent, hits apply a debuff dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This stacks up to 50 times and is unavoidable. And whenever an enemy dies, this transfers to anyone within 25 meters. Yahl helps a ton because it gives me 10% weapon damage for the second piece. And here's another reason I'm using the Pestilence. You know how everyone and their mom uses the Stinger Hive, and that thing deals a lot of damage. But this can be to their detriment with the Pestilence. Did you know that if you shoot the Stinger Hive with the Pestilence, those stacks also apply to skills? So after it's destroyed, all that weapon damage will be transferred to whoever's in that vicinity.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Go ahead and fill that, bro. Go ahead and fill that. Better stop throwing them hives out.
It's crazy. My primary is of course the ACR SS with Boomerang. Critical hits have a 50% chance to return the bullet to the magazine. If a bullet is returned, the next shot has 40% damage increase. This is by far my favorite rifle talent, especially with this weapon because how fast the ACR SS shoots. And you're going to see later on in the PvE version of this build why it's so crazy with Umbra. It's insane. Plus the modifiers. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a second. Because with this setup, I zone enemies with my rifle, and at mid to close range, I use the Pestilence. And the skills aren't really nothing special. I usually utilize this skill composition when I'm working with DPS style builds, the EMP sticky bomb and the decoy. You can also switch to the tactician drone to spot enemies. It's really up to you. And let me show you the stats. I know you guys were wondering because of how much survival I have on this build. Well, I have 40% crit hit chance and over 100% crit hit damage. As I said, you'll be sacrificing some crit, but it's okay. This build encompasses everything you need to become a beast on the battlefield. Plus, you'll always have teammates using Coyote's mask to increase your crit even more. Now, look at the pulse resistance at 99.9% and the hazard protection at 80%. If somebody can provide the immunity thresholds for status effects in the comments below, that will be super helpful because 80% is more than enough for any status to have any significant effect against me. Some of these status effect thresholds are like at 89%. One of them I think is even 78%. I'm gonna wrap this video up soon, but I have to talk about the PvE version. Okay, it's completely different. It's Umbra Initiative, and I have 5 skill tiers with 5 weapon cores. If you notice, I've done this before this patch. I think this is the way to go with gear sets and hybrids, but just hear me out. This is an absolute monster in PvE. It's been altered to cater to the ACR SS, and with the gear sets talent Umbra provides, the rate of fire is unbelievable. Oh my goodness. If you thought the rate of fire was already fast, just look at it, just listen to it. It's crazy. And that was with that modifier, Impatient. That gives you 30% extra reload speed and rate of fire while being in close range. For the skills with this, I used the Fire Sticky Bomb and the Oxidizer with Reckless Abandon. The Fire Sticky Bomb is already devastating on its own with its fire explosion, and the Oxidizer deals the most damage out of any skill in the game if you know how to use it. And let me just say something. You can use this in PvP as well. You just have to be more alert and precise because you'll get destroyed in seconds if you aren't. And here's a brief description of the gear composition I have. With Bakaro's holster and the technician specialization, I get 1 weapon core from the named attributes and 3 skill tiers. With the Ninja Bike, it's another skill tier, which then creates an amazing 5 weapon core, 5 skill tier hybrid. With From the Shadows and Into the Light, while sitting in cover, you will gain an insane amount of crit damage and rate of fire that you unleash after leaving cover. And upon re-entering cover will gain armor regeneration. It's the perfect DPS style gear set. And to me, PvE is really easy, which is why Umbra Initiative is so powerful while playing it. Here are the stats for this version, and with full stacks from Umbra, the crit hit damage will be well over 200%. And let me say something real quick. You can use this build in PvP, but it's not easy, at least with this rifle. That's why I made this edition a hybrid. You see, I'm not one to play normal DPS builds and only utilize my weapon. I want to create builds that offer a multifaceted approach to combat by utilizing skills and weapons simultaneously, so that I can continuously disrupt the flow of enemy strategies. Nowadays, everyone in PvP just want to burn you down as fast as possible, mainly with Umbra using a high rate of fire weapon. Usually, they're very squishy and it doesn't take much to kill them, but they're a cannon and can melt you in seconds. So using the Umbra hybrid was a great counter against them. The oxidizer stops them from sitting on cover while trying to form a strategy against you. It gets them out of their comfort zone. And the fire sticky bomb is great overall for just destroying players who try to test you. But like I said, this build is ideal for PvE if you're using a rifle. Just thought I'd share this with you about my experiences with it in PvP. Overall, you can decide how you want to play these builds out. I just felt compelled to prove to myself that the ACR SS is a worthy weapon amongst all the others. This is not the only rifle build that I'm going to bring out. I've also been working on an awesome breaking point build, so there's more to come. Stay tuned to the channel and tell me what you think about this build. I appreciate you staying to the end, and if you did, then comment Specter below. You guys are legends, and you know I always appreciate the likes and subscribes to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Be right out.